Welcome to your digital version of the Bride of Kirkham Heritage Trail. Now you will be following me all around Kirkham today, and I'm sure there's lots of spots you'll recognise. And just a little message from me, I really encourage you to keep sharing your stories. So if there's a spot you recognise and you have a tale about it, feel free to pause and share your stories with one another. Enjoy. Welcome all. Welcome Effie, thank you for bringing your little camera with you there. Hello Alexa, thank you for bringing your beautiful smile. And where's Louise? Yes, Louise has got a lovely sparkly smile here with her today as well. Now I've already told Louise that if the skies open and the rain falls, I'm going to be looking for some sparkly smiles from you. So Alexa, Effie and Louise, you're in charge of smiling for today, and I'll do my best as well. Fantastic. Now welcome everybody, thank you so much for coming. Now my name is Ophelia, and first I wanted to see if anybody knows what the word philia means. Does anybody know? You know! Oh, please shout it out! Love! Yes, indeed! Philia is Roman for love, and I am on a very special quest today. I am searching all around the town to try and find the meaning of the word love. Now, I have been here throughout all the ages of Kirkham's history. I was here during the Roman settlement when they had their fort atop Car Hill and when their fires crackled aloft, warning friends of incoming danger. And I was here when the market square first began bustling, when it first got its market charter in 1296. I was there learning of love of produce and love of friendship as the people circled and met in the market square there. Oh yes, I have been here for many a year when the Romans had only a god named Cupid to blame. Indeed, it was the Romans who gave me my namesake, Philia. They said that I brought good luck in love to all who encountered me. So if anybody needs a bit of extra luck in love, then stay nice and close to me as we're journeying around today. I'm said to have some wonderful powers, but unfortunately, I am most unlucky in love myself. You see, oh, thank you, thank you. Yes, sympathy, I love sympathy. Oh, I'm very unlucky in love. And I am here not only to learn about love, but also on a special quest with a hope that my beautiful, magical wolfskin cloak will be returned to me. Now, my magical wolfskin cloak was in fact stolen from me. Now, you'll have noticed that I'm in my veil and my bridal gear. It was stolen by no less than a man who promised me everything and left me with nothing. Now, more about that later. I don't want to talk about him. It's very negative. It's not a good way for us to begin our burgeoning friendship. So, this man stole my magical cloak, but there was a little bit of hope in the story, for I met a wonderful weaving sorceress. A weaving sorceress, and she was powered with so much magic. She was powered with the magic of every single of the 11 mills and the thousands of looms that used to spin here, and the thousands of hands that would work the looms. She was so magical. And I found her when I was searching for my magical cloak. I laid eyes on her, and she looked just like this. She had beautiful, bright, curly locks of hair, and she seemed to shine, determined in her work to bring magic to all. And it was her who quested me. She said I must find the true meaning of love, and she has buried a very special quest all about the town. And you, I hope, will help me follow the clues the weaving sorceress has planted all about the town in Kirkham. Listen to the stories of love I have learned from the rich history of the people living here. And then, I hope, with your help specifically, madam, I hope my wonderful wolfskin cloak will be returned to me, and I will be cured of my eternal heartache. Oh, weaving sorceress, she is such a magical power. It was her who summoned us all to meet here today, and she has summoned us to meet in front of a very enchanted object. Can I get her? Ooh! Does anybody know what this enchanted object is and why it might be very important to the town of Kirkham? Does anybody know what this is? Yes, but I'm covering that up, madam. Does anybody know without reading the information behind me? Does anybody know what this is? Do any of you? Do you know, Alexa? No. Do you know, Effie? Do you know? What's your name?
A sewing machine.
Yes, well done. It is a very, well done. It is a very large, old-fashioned type of sewing machine called a loom. So you're very close to a sewing machine, but this is called a loom. And this is in fact the last loom of Kirkham. Now, when I last met the weaving sorceress and she had all her magic about her, this loom was spinning again. And this loom was spinning and it was telling all the stories of how important the fabric that was spun here is to Kirkham and to its history. It was spinning a story of the sailcloth that was used for great seafaring men and their hands to cling for safety aboard ships. It was spinning a song of parachutes during the Second World War that people would cling to. It was spinning of wonderful sultry satins, twills and cord, and ladies all dressed and curtsying in their velvet. Aha! Beautiful. Now, I have watched over the town since the time of the hand looms, people producing tiny pieces of cloth and bartering them in the markets, all the way until the era of mass production, when this town really boomed financially, in the era of the wonderful pioneers of the fabric industry, the Hornbys, the Langtons, the Shepherds, and of course, the Burleys. Now, just as this loom produces a beautiful tapestry from a single thread, you will see as we journey around Kirkham today the threads of the hard work of all the weavers, of all that history living proudly on in the beautiful buildings that surround the town. Buildings I have long admired, monuments of history, of what has been and what could be again. Now, as the sorceress sat upon this loom, spinning, a simple piece of cloth fell to the floor in front of my feet as if by magic, which is precisely what it was. And it was our first clue, Louise. Our first clue of where we are to journey to next. And I have it here. Oh, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig is very supportive, but he also requires an introduction. So please give us a wave, Craig. Wonderful.
Hello.
Now, this is Craig. I picked him up when I was in the wandering hills of Lancashire. We're not too sure about where he's come from, but he does love a song. and his song is even prettier than his face. So Craig will be helping with lots of sound effects as we're hearing stories of Kirkham today. And that was just one fine example, and everybody, he sometimes bursts into song and sound, and he loves it if you join in with him, don't you, Craig?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's try that again. I have the first clue. Fantastic, wonderful, thank you, Weaving Sorceress. And I would love somebody to read it out for us. Would you like to? Your hand went straight up, come on. Fantastic, okay, here you go. Let's see what's in there. Oh, and some sweeties. Oh, she's very kind, that Weaving Sorceress. You can keep those sweets as well. And there's some cloth. Shall I help you? Let's see. Okay. Okay, this is our first clue. Okay, so can you read it in a nice, big, loud voice? Okay.
Green place for silence, remembering light.
Light. Yes, well done.
Think now of peace and not of fight. A flower and bright, 4 p.m. high. Up the steps and where the riddle lies.
Very good, well done. Shall I, because I've got this thing that makes me a bit louder, shall I repeat some of the stuff? Okay, so everybody, we're going to work together with all these clues, okay? So well done, Alexa, for reading that out. Give her a big clap. And you can keep the chocolates, you can share them if you want to, but it's up to you. That's up to you. So, a green place for silence, remembering plight. Think now of peace and not a fight. A tower and spire 46 meters high. Up the steps is where the next riddle lies. Now this is a bit of a puzzle. We might have to think about the first bit first. Has anyone got any ideas? Yes, you've got some ideas. Fantastic. What did you say? The Memorial Park. Yes, wonderful. The Memorial Park and grounds. What do we think? Did anyone have a different idea, or are we happy? What did you think?
Michael's Church.
St. Michael's Church. You are so wise. Let's see, what does the sorceress... She's nodding. I think that it is so lucky that you were here and that you were here. I think we're going to go through the Memorial Park, and then what will be in front of us if we walk down there, do we think? It was your idea. Yeah, brilliant. St. Michael's Church. So I think we've got 2 stops that we're going to take. So I will fold this up. Fantastic. Who will look after this clue for me in case we need a little bit of help along the way to refresh our memories? There you are. Okay, fantastic. Now we can... Boys and girls, I haven't found a clue here, but remember, I'm not only searching for my cloak, I also need to learn the true meaning of the word love. So, the memorial grounds may seem a strange place to begin our journey, but I think I know why the Weaving Sorceress has led us here. I think she's led us here so that we can remember them, the brave and the fallen, and remember that love stands the test of time. It endures even through the greatest battles. Even as Europe was ravaged by bombs, people wrote love letters, people waited for their sweethearts to return home. So I think the reason we're here is so that we can spend some time together remembering how powerful love is, even in the most trying of times. Is that right? She's happy. She's happy. Now, RAF Kirkham was built in 1939, and it was on a huge 220 acres of land now housing Kirkham Prison. Now, it opened in 1940, and by 1945, 1,000 British and Allied servicemen and women came through the doors there. Now, many of them found themselves in Kirkham. This would have been their new home. The lucky ones who came back, who were what's called demobbed, would have found themselves walking these streets, perhaps a little unsure of how to start again, but of course finding true love, friendships and a warm welcome, which is very common in Kirkham. Now, in fact, there is a phrase many people have told me about this town, and they have told me that the town gets under your skin. Has anybody heard that before? This is a couple of people I was speaking to saying that the town really gets under your skin and something makes you want to stay here. And in fact, one fellow, Duncan, I was talking to, he said he was seeking the comfort of the countryside. He found himself living in Kirkham, and then once he was settled in, he did a little bit of digging into his family history, and he found that in fact his grandfather was one of the brave soldiers demobbed here. So completely unknown to him, he was walking the steps of his grandfather many, many years before. So something just drew him to be where his grandfather was. And that was a lovely story, I thought. Something very mysterious about bringing people together in the town. Now, another person I was talking to told me something about the Americans arriving into Kirkham during the war. And she said that they used to throw packets of a tasty new treat that had not come to Kirkham yet, hadn't come to England, and all the young boys and girls would run up to the train and stretch out their hands and grab the new tasty treat. So, it comes in a packet about this size. I'm going to see if anyone can guess what the tasty treat might have been that was thrown from the train by the American soldiers. Chewing gum, yes! Fantastic, you know your stuff, fantastic. Oh really, and did they tell you that story? Oh, and more. Oh, fantastic. So we have a wonderful source of knowledge with us here today. Thank you so much for coming, both of you. Yes, so I thought that was fantastic that the American soldiers would do that to greet the children of Kirkham and to celebrate their arrival. And which as well? Oh, and stockings! Oh, fantastic! Was that more for the ladies as well, for the mums? Oh, they knew how to get the ladies on board. Oh, did they? This ties in very nicely to another thing that someone was telling me. I don't know if you know a lady called Audrey. She was the lady who told me this next thing. Now, she fell in love with an Irish soldier who was living in Kirkham, and they met in the George. Now, I heard this was a bit of a squaddies pub. This is what I've been told, is that that's where the soldiers would go, and that there was sometimes a little bit of a battle for the affections of the beautiful Kirkham ladies. Just like that, exactly. See, that pup remembers. There was a little bit of a battle for the hearts of the women of Kirkham between the locals and the soldiers, but she met the love of her life there, and they celebrated with a beautiful double wedding with her sister, who also met another Irish squaddie, and they had a double wedding, and it was actually in the Gazette, in the papers, because it was very rare at the time to have a double wedding. So that was a lovely story she told me. And she was growing up in 1930s Kirkham, and all of her siblings, and she had 9 siblings, they were all named after movie stars. So she took her namesake from Audrey Hepburn. So I will always remember her as Audrey Hepburn. And I really hope to meet her again, because she was a wonderful woman and a great source of knowledge. She told me so much about Kirkham, so I've had a very warm welcome. I hope to meet her again.
We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do. Let the blue skies kiss the dark clouds all
Wonderful.
Singing
We can
this
join in
song.
the last bit, everybody.
We'll
meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Lovely. Now, we have learned something of love here, definitely of love, just standing the test of time and enduring so much. But there's no clue here. So my cloak is near, but it's not here. So we need to move on to the place where there is a spire and tower 46 meters high. Now, where did we think that was again? To St. Michael's Church. Okay, so do they have a very tall spire and tower? Is there a clue over there? No clue there. Okay, I think, did the clue say we needed to go up some steps? Yeah, okay, so I think we need to go to St. Michael's Church, just like you said, and we will go up the... Yes, well done! Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here we are on the steps of the beautiful St. Michael's Church. Now, as our clue told us, this church has an absolutely wonderful breeze. All the way up there, right up to the top of the sky. But if we bring our eyes down a little now, I'd like us to just let them look around the beautiful green earth nearby. There are stories all around this place. This is one of my favourite spots in Kirkham. There is such a wonderful sense of peace about this place. Now, of course, I have heard wonderful stories of the church community here. I've heard of beautiful wedding ceremonies and rites of passage. And of course, the tombstones also tell their own tales. Tales of love lost and everlasting. And perhaps we have something to learn of love here. For what is grief but love unending? Now, if you will move your eyes a little further to the right over here, you will see far over that way where there is a gap in the field. This is where Mowbray Caravan Park is. But before the caravan park, there was a great sprawling mansion. Oh, thank you, weaving sorceress. I must be learning. She's been kind. Fantastic. There was a great sprawling mansion going by the name of Mowbray Hall. Now, you know, I spoke of someone who stole my beloved wolfskin cloak and broke my heart. Well, he had a fair bit of money, and he lived in the wonderful Mowbray Hall, which was once home to the Earl of Derby. Now, I spent only 7 nights there with my betrothed before I ran for the hills. I learned a truth so terrible that I'm not going to go on about, because I'm meant to be mending my broken heart, of course, so I will only talk about the lovely things. Now, unfortunately, the beautiful building did burn. I'm afraid it did indeed set fire in the 1960s, and it was demolished shortly after. And it was only then, in the ruins, that I dared to return. But I was greeted by the most beautiful sounds of children playing. They were playing up Mowbray, as they like to say, and they were playing hide and seek, and they were playing truth or dare, and they were giggling, and the whole air was tinged with excitement. They were so happy in their merriment, and they were doing a very special dare, for it is said that on the grounds where Mowbray Hall used to be, there was a very secret underground tunnel. So there was this dark tunnel, and the children would dare one another to creep all the way down. And it was said if they made it all the way to the bottom, they could continue tunneling underground all of Kirkham, and they would come out at a secret passageway not so far from here. Do any of the little ones have any ideas of where a secret passageway might be here? Can you see anything that looks like it might be a secret passageway? What do you think? What do you think? The steps over there, Effie. Oh, yes, well, unfortunately, we will never know because no one will dare to go down there. So steeped in frightening horror stories it is. Stories of headless priests. Stories of women in white sobbing their tears. In fact, I did hide down there myself for a while when my heart was first cleanly broken. I was too ashamed to face the day. So perhaps it was me, the woman in white, that they saw. I should rather like that, forever becoming part of their playground lore. But there was another grisly tale from this place. If we just look over to where the scaffolding is now, some of you may remember the workhouse cum hospital. Does anybody know what a workhouse was? Does anybody know? What was a workhouse? You're my source of all knowledge. Yes. So the children would have a place to sleep and a meal, but they would work very, very hard, wouldn't they? So children who maybe didn't have a home or didn't have a way to get any money, but the question is whether they were treated fairly. Well, I'm not sure about that, but what I do know is that inside the workhouse there was a kitchen, and in the kitchen there was a cook, and in the cook's hands there was a pot, and in the pot there was a ripe old green vegetable that not many people like, that's said to be a bit stinky, about this size. What do you think it was? Gruel! Green gruel! Oh, they were not treated well in this workhouse. It was a vegetable, so it wasn't, well, some might have called it gruel. Yes, what do you think? Yes, well done, Alexa. Indeed, it was a cabbage, and this cook had a nickname, and they called her the old cabbage boiler. They called her the old stinky cabbage boiler for her apron, her hands, everything about her stunk of the stuff. And I was talking to Sandra, a nurse at the hospital, and she told me that long after the workhouse was gone, you would walk past a particular ward in the hospital and you would be greeted again by the smell of boiling cabbage. Now this is long after the cook had passed away, and nobody dared to complain about the cabbage smell, just as the children of the workhouse didn't dare to complain about cabbage soup for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Now, I have been told a few grisly stories, but we should journey inside for a lighter tale, shall we? Now follow me, we'll go... Was added later in 1844. Now I've learnt much about this beautiful church, and much from the strong community that meet here and the wonderful weddings, as I said. But all the churches I've visited in Kirkham, I've been told the same date on the calendar. That is very important when we're talking about friendship and learning about love. And it was celebrated some 2 weeks ago, and it is very prestigious in Kirkham. Does anybody know what it was? Anybody know? Do you know? Club Day, of course! Wonderful Club Day. Now, does anybody know why Club Days exist? Does anybody know where the first idea to have a Club Day came from?
This lady here knows, I think.
You do! Please share your stories with us. Tell her.
I think it was to bring the churches together, wasn't it?
To bring the churches together, absolutely. Not to celebrate one faith, but the coming together of all peoples and all faiths. Fantastic, yes. Now, if we dig a little bit deeper into the history, you will find that many churches used to have something called friendly societies. Now, this is important. I think the Weaving Sorceress wants me to learn about love of friends and friendship as well. Now, these friendly societies, they would be working men, and they would put little bits of money aside to put it into a kind of communal pot. So then, if anybody was ill, or in a worst case scenario, if anybody needed a burial and they couldn't afford a proper burial, then this money would be used for the community, and it would be used to help people who otherwise might not be able to have money. So these friendly societies became a bit of a friendship group. They became a club, friends clubbing together for the greater good. And there came a time in the year when all the money had been given to all the causes it needed to be given to, and there was a little bit of money left over, and they decided they would use it to celebrate. So they would go out and march just as they do today, the churches, proudly with their banners, and I've heard they would have perhaps a couple of drinks as well as part of a celebration. They would have a couple of drinks to celebrate as well, so there would be a real party atmosphere. So they would be celebrating not only all faiths, but also friendship and community, and the importance of helping out your fellow man and woman. So, this is what I learned of Club Day, but I would love to keep on learning about it. So does one person have something they would like to tell me about a Club Day they experienced? Something they love about Club Day, or what's your favourite thing, or a little story for something that happened? Yes?
Where you all get together.
Where you all get together, this is your favourite thing about it. And I think you've summed it up perfectly there. It's all about coming together and love of community. Thank you. Lovely. Now we still need to find the clue. So can everybody have a little look about the seats and just see if there is a clue here, because I must find this cloak. Thank you. This must be it, clue number 2. Okay. Would anybody like to read it? Yes. Okay. And as you know, if there's some chocolates in there, you can have them as well. What does it say? Oh, that's okay. What does it say?
Fish for sale, fish for sale. Sticking in the sticks. A stop for old.
That's it. A stop for ale.
Ale.
Many a tale.
Watched over by a cloak.
By a clock. Yes. Fish for sale, stick 'em in the stocks. A stop for ale, many a tale, watched over by the clock. Does anybody know where our next location might be? Fish for sale. What do you think?
Market Square.
The Market Square. What do we think? Let's look at our team, look at everybody else. Do we think it might be Market Square? Lots of nodding. Fantastic. Who will look after the clue for me? Okay. Who's not got one? You haven't got one, Effie. Okay, you look after the clue in case we need some help.
Why does it have hair on it?
Well, my magical cloak, it is a little bit wolf fur, so I wonder if it's a little clue that we're getting closer to the wolfskin cloak. Okay. Now, let us journey to Market Square. Do we all know the way? Oh, the fish stone. Oh, so that's why it said now. We've already found the next clue, but of course the sorceress also wants us to learn about love from each location as well. So, here we are at the wonderful Market Square. Now, the history of Kirkham goes way back to the Roman era and beyond. But it has its roots well and truly in the medieval era, shown by this wonderful Market Square here. Very popular in the medieval era. Now, we also have these fantastic fish stones. Now, why do we think these are called fish stones? Does anybody know? Something to do with the market? Yes. Yes, because the market would sell fish, and actually they would use the wonderful coolness, you're cooling down here, lovely, of the fish stones to cool the shimmering fish so they would last even in the heat. So you are sitting amongst a bit of very important history here of people displaying their proud fruits from the sea. Now this is also a place where my quest began. This is where my wonderful magical cloak was traded for all the untold riches in the world and used to buy Mowbray Hall. Now I'll tell you what happened. I came to find out a little more about my husband-to-be, for he was acting very strange, and I popped into an alehouse. Now, can you see the co-op over there? The alehouse was nestled just in the corner there. It was a little secret alehouse, and it was called the Eagle and Child. And inside that alehouse, there was an alekeeper going by the name of Isabel Burley. Now, Isabel Burley was a wonderful woman, very important to the town of Kirkham. But does anybody know why? Does anybody know why? Has anybody heard of Isabel Burley before? No. Well, Kirkham used to be looked after by a group called the 30 Men. Now, along with the vicar, they would look after all the business of the town, both regular and religious. Now, the 30 men were made up of 2 men from different areas, 15 areas in the region, and they soon became 30, and they would look after the town. They would have regular meetings in the church, and one of these meetings didn't go very well. Well, they were in charge of Kirkham Grammar School. Have you seen Kirkham Grammar School? Yes. Beautiful building, Kirkham Grammar School. Now, unfortunately, the 30 men were meant to be looking after it, and it fell into disrepair. And so, now this is a lesson, I think, about charity, maybe. Isabel Burley, who was a humble alehouse keeper, not having very much herself, she approached them in her wonderful apron from the alehouse, and she gave them £30, which was a lot of money at the time, and that was enough to restore Kirkham Grammar School. And she's still celebrated to this day. In Kirkham Grammar School, you can see a beautiful tapestry dedicated to Isabel Burley. So she was very important to the town, and it was her who also knew all of the town's gossip, because she worked at the alehouse, so everyone would be gossiping. And when I went in there and asked if anyone knew my husband-to-be, oh, they all piped up in chorus about what a miserly old curmudgeon he was, a dullard and a shoehead. They said he was an evil man and I should never marry him. And they said he was a humble farmer until one day he struck it lucky and he found a magical wolfskin cloak. And he sold it, and he bought Mowbray Hall. And upon hearing this, my heart broke in two, for I have a secret, you see. It's about the cloak. For those of you who haven't guessed, it has magical powers. And anybody who wears it can transform themselves into a wolf. So, I used to wear this wolfskin cloak, and I would run free and wild with my wolf brothers and sisters, drinking from the open stream that used to run through here, running no matter what the weather through the twinkling twilight sky. I so loved being wild and free. But this man stole my power, and it's the kind of power that should not be bartered over with the greedy hands of men and the greedy grins. So ever since then, I have been looking for it. I'm distracted anyway, that's not what I meant to be talking about. There's something about the market square that forces one to overshare. Don't you think? I'm sure you've all had friendly meetings here yourself and said too much. So, let us move on. Behind us, we have a beautiful building, Ash Tree House. And it got its name from a beautiful line of ash trees that used to be out the front, and I would wander amongst them merrily. But if you cast your eyes to the very, very top, you will see there was a lead-lined porch, and all the way up there at the very, very top where the chimney is, there are the names of people from all the history of Kirkham. Children have scratched their names into it. And it is way up there, you will see my name, Ophelia, scratched into the lovely brickwork. But, of course, you would need wings or a very tall ladder to see it. And it's one of the only last proofs of my long existence in the town. So you'll just have to take my word for it, I'm afraid. Now, we have the next clue. We mustn't dilly-dally. Let's read it. Where is it? We must find the cloak. Okay. Shall we let somebody else read it out? You choose somebody. I'll repeat it nice and loud. Time to meet two of my friends. A love that grows and never ends. Can you spot a red balloon? Believe in fate, you will do soon. I think it's these. Oh yes, it's Sue and Keith Hopcroft. There they are. Okay, let's go across and meet them. Come along, yes, come on. Let's go. We might need a bit of help crossing the road. Said, believe in fate, you will do soon. And this is because there is a wonderful love story that we will get to hear today from Sue and Keith. And it is all about the magic of fate, but it's also about their first kiss. Can I hear, ooh? And they've agreed to reenact their first kiss for us. Now I have heard that Kirkham had many notorious pub crawls. Now I don't know if anybody here has been on any of these said pub crawls, but I believe they would start in Westham and finish up there. Anyone who would make it to the pubs up there. We've got the Black Horse and sometimes the Cube. Did you make it up to the Cube? No. No. So, Sue and Keith met at a lock-in. Now you were a barmaid in the Queen's. Yeah. Oh, no lock-in. No lock-in. It was watching the boxing, no lock-in, everything very legal. And of course their eyes met across the room and they managed to make it out of the pub, round to this corner, and this is where they had their famous first kiss. But now for the bit about fate. Now Sue was all set to move into a lovely new home. She was going to rent a lovely new home. She was looking around it, and when she was there, I believe you said to me, you felt like this is where I will be happy. This is my happy ever after in this wonderful new home. Now she was all set, boxes packed, ready to move. And as she puts it, Keith stole her home. For somebody swooped in at the last minute. This was before they had met. Swooped in at the last minute, decided to buy the house and moved in there. And then later, when Sue went to Keith's home, it was the very same place. And she lives there now, and she has had her happy ever after living in the same house. Did I tell it all right? You did. Fantastic! How wonderful is that? I really believe in the magic of fate when I met these two. And now they have agreed to restage their first kiss. Have we all got some confetti? Was it in the rain? Okay, so we'll count down, okay? Everybody, 3, 2, 1. Woo! Thank you, fantastic, wonderful. Now we must go to where love has lasted throughout the ages. I believe you have a clue for us. Now, here we are. We're just round the corner from the hillside where I believe our next clue will be. But first, of course, we must learn a little something about love. Now, the hillside is full of so many stories about love. But I'm afraid there is a bit of a sad origin, but still a love story nonetheless. That's right, isn't it, weaving sorcerers? Yes, so it was built by John Burley in 1811 for his son Edward. But Edward sadly died and never got to live in the house, so I'm afraid it has a sad origin. And he died at the age of 23, so it's very sad indeed. But it's almost as though the house felt this sadness and brought so many happy memories to so many people ever since, because it became a wonderful place. Now, the Burley families lived in Hillside for generations, and they also had wonderful acres of land. There was home out there to beautiful rose bushes, and also a wonderful mulberry tree said to live to 300 years old. Now that's very strange for a mulberry tree, so perhaps it was a little bit of the sad story living on through the wonderful leaves of the mulberry tree. Now, the Burleys lived there for generations, and the last Burley to live there, and indeed to live in Kirkham, was Ada Burley. Now, she was an absolutely fantastic woman. Sadly, she died in 1934, but she did a lot for this town while she was here. She was the first female town councillor. Woo! Yes, the Weaving Sorceress loves stories of female empowerment. She was the first female justice of the peace as well. Woo! And she used to ride through town in a horse-drawn carriage with 2 coachmen, just to remind people of the good old days. And she would wave from the coach, and everyone would come up to their houses and wave when Ada Burley came marching by. Now, she also did something very strange when she was living here. She created an advert for a gardener for the house, but she specified the gardener must have 1 hand. Now, this was very strange when I found this out. What do you think that might have been about? Why would they have had an advert for a gardener to have only 1 hand? What do you think? Anyone got any ideas? All creative suggestions welcome. What do we think? A gardener with 1 hand? What do you think, sir? Don't have a clue. Or any of the little ones, what do you think? Not sure what a gardener is. What do you think?
To be unique.
To be unique. Wonderful. Well, this is a fantastic answer. So the question is, why have a gardener with 1 hand? But Ada Burley would have said, why not? It was in fact part of a plan to get men who had been injured in the war back into work. So men who were injured, had suffered injuries, perhaps they came back with some serious injuries and they would find it very hard to get work again. She created an advert specifically for men like that, so they could see it and they would say, yes, this Ada Burley wants someone a little bit unique, a bit like me. So that was a fantastic answer. Well done. You're going to make Ada Burley very proud wherever she is now. Well done. Now, as I said, the hillside is a place of so much love that's really throughout the ages. I've heard so much about wedding receptions, important dinners, proposals, but mainly people saying it was the place to have your wedding celebration. So lots of people saying they had many wonderful times here. Now the big question is, you've all seen what's happening with Hillside now. I'm wondering, what would everyone like to see here next? Does anyone have any ideas? What could the building be used for? Because it's closed at the moment. Anyone have any ideas of what they'd like to see? What would you like to see?
We were just wondering, we think we're going to make it into a heritage centre now, aren't we?
That's perfect, isn't it? A heritage centre. So a place to remember history. And what did you think?
Turn it into a restaurant.
A restaurant! Oh yes, because it was a restaurant, so you're picking up on the history there. People said it had absolutely wonderful dinners, all laid out with posh white plates with a gold ring around it. Very fancy from the people I've spoken to. Now, we must journey on, so can we see a clue from the Weaving Sorceress anywhere here? All fantastic ideas. And I noticed nobody wanted to get the Cube Club opened again then. I heard there was a club up there, but... oh, you liked it, there we go. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Should we open it up? Let's see where to next.
Want so much love.
Oh, let's listen to the clue.
High Street Bank, but what was here before? A school for women's education.
Oh, thank you so much. Once a much-loved High Street bank, but what was here before? A school for women's education where girls could learn much more. Now, I don't know, does anybody have any idea where that could be? Once a much-loved High Street bank. What do you think? Car Hill, maybe. Was that a bank? No, I don't know. I'm not sure. The weaving sorceress sometimes makes it very difficult, very tricky. But as I said, she's all about female empowerment, so I think there's a bit of a clue here about women's education. What do you think? The old bank. I think it's in that direction where the old bank is. Yes, because it says once a much-loved High Street bank. Does anybody have any other ideas?
What was the TSG? Charity Girls Endowed School.
Ah, that makes sense. Thank you, madam. What's your name? Bev. Thank you, Bev. Round of applause. So we're going to go past the old bank and we're going to go to what was Kirkham Charity Girls School. So, and the sun is shining. Here we are. This is the place, is it? Fantastic. Wonderful. Yes, so this building here, this beautiful Gothic building, this is where I believe there was a bank that everybody loved as well. So there was we like having local things nice and close by. So there's something about love to learn there. But I believe, as I said, the weaving sorceress is very keen on female empowerment, and I think she's led us here because this Gothic grandeur used to be home to Kirkham Charity Girls School, a school specifically for the tuition of poorer girls who would otherwise have not had an education. So I think we can go round here and learn a little about it. Follow me, we'll go round here. Empowerment, everybody. So, Kirkham Charity Girls School. Now, let me set the context a little bit. So let me tell you a little bit about life in the 18th century for women and girls seeking an education. Now, it was a bad time to be seeking an education, not just in Kirkham, absolutely everywhere. So it was more common for girls to be helping at home, helping with the children, so they had very important roles looking after the house. They had very important roles looking after the home, but it wasn't seen so important that they would have an education to learn to read and write, because it wasn't so common that they would end up having a job, so that the men would be doing most of the working. Now, this was especially true for poorer girls, so it seemed even less important at the time, very sadly, for girls who didn't have a lot of money to learn to read and write, until all that changed in Kirkham. So look up at this beautiful building behind you. This fantastic building. Well, let me tell you a little bit about it. Before this was here, there was another building, the original Kirkham Charity Girls School, and this was set up by two very kind people, Anne Hankinson and Thomas Langton, and they put together £100 for the education of girls and to create this school. So it was absolutely fantastic, and that was a lot of money at the time. Now, that school stood for 100 years, and it educated hundreds of girls who otherwise would have had no access to formal education. Now, after that building went, this beautiful building was built as well, and all the good work continued. Now, it was here, some 100 years later, that I stumbled upon a wonderful teacher called Mary Sutcliffe. Now, as you know, I was trying to learn about love. I was feeling very sad, and I stumbled in and I saw her. This was in 1870. I saw her in front of all these wonderful children, 40 young girls, all learning to read, to write. They were learning to sew and knit so that they could also have a job in the booming fabric industry here. So learning loads of important things. Learning loads of important things. And I said to her, when the school bell rings out, will you take a walk with me and perhaps you can teach me something? Now, she agreed, and you see these gardens here? These are the gardens we walked through, and all the young girls had planted a beautiful rose flower garden, and some of the roses still remain here today. You see them here? And the rose, I think, is quite symbolic of the Charity Girls' School because it's lovely to be pretty as a rose as a girl, but sometimes to fight for your education, you might need a few thorns as well. So I think that was a good lesson that Mary taught me. Now, I asked her, how does one be happy? So I was so sad with my broken heart, the loss of my magical cloak, and I said, how do you find happiness? This is one of the great questions in life. Maybe not for children, but for us who are growing up and growing older, we are wondering, how can we be happy? And she said, happiness cannot be found. It is not an old coin. It is not a four-leaf clover on the floor. It is, in fact, something that has to be made. And she said, you, Ophelia, in this town, I think you have what it takes to make it. You can make yourself happy. You can find your cloak and work with the town. So, upon her blessing, I felt quite sure that I would be able to work with you all today and quite sure that we will find the cloak. And I'm also quite sure, young man, is there a clue there?
What?
Below your feet? Yes, what's your name?
My name's Joe.
Joe! Thank you, Joe! Thank you, Joe. Now, Joe, of course, you can have your toll. There you are.
Oh, thank you.
Now, I think Mary Sutcliffe would have rather liked it if a young girl would read out the next clue, for she was all about teaching girls to read and write. So would anybody like to come forward and read our last clue from the Weaving Sorceress? Should we do it together maybe, you three girls? Would you like to? Hi Joe, thank you.
It on both sides.
It's got it on both sides. Oh, she really wanted us to learn this one. Right, what does it say? What does it say? Should we do it together? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Formed by churches, large and small, all for one and one for all. Oh, this is a bit hard to read that. The elders spin a wise tale or two. The final part of your quest depends only on you. Oh, so I'm going to have to do something for the final part of the quest, maybe. I think, is that the same as the other side? What does it say? Formed by churches, large and small. Okay, well let's start trying to figure it out, shall we? So formed by churches large and small, all for one and one for all, the elders, oh my wand, the elders spin a wise tale or two. Does anybody know what this might be? If this is a building maybe, or what do you think? Formed by churches? What could it be? What did you say, Madam? United Reformed Church. Okay, right, look at your team. Does everyone agree? Yeah. What do we think? United Reformed Church. Yeah, so why would it be the United Reformed Church from the clue? What do you think? I think it makes sense because I think originally the United Reformed Church was all about different churches coming together to celebrate faith as one place. And I think there was some large congregations, some smaller, and they all came together. And I know, actually, because I met one of the wonderful elders there, and she shared a story with me, that they have a wonderful group of older people from the congregation called the elders, and they help to decide all the business of the church, the different groups that will happen, and they look after it. So we've got the elders, we've got the large and small churches, so it must be that one. I don't know how you figured it out, but I think that's it. Okay, I think this woman's got a little bit of the magic. I think maybe she's got a bit of the magic of a weaving sorceress about her, perhaps. Yes, I think you've been very nearby. Lovely. The final part of our trail. This, I believe...
I see a cloak!
You see a cloak?
There!
my goodness, a cloak. Does it look like a wolfskin cloak?
Yeah.
Okay. This is my cloak. Thank you so much for finding it. I have to wait until the weaving sorceress gives it to me. So we'll have to just make sure that we've definitely completed our quest before she does, okay? And then I'm sure it will be returned to me. And it is only within arm's reach. It's just over there. Thank you so much. So thank you, everybody, for figuring out all these clues that have led us here. Now let me tell you, I learnt so much of love from the United Reformed Church here. Now just like all the wonderful churches in this town, not only about love of faith, but love of community, but especially friendship. There is an absolutely wonderful friendship group that meet here, and they shared all their stories from living in Kirkham from childhood now to the wonderful age that they were at. And the whole church was filled with laughter as they swapped stories and supported each other through all kinds of love lost. They supported each other with their friendship. And I learned so much about it here. Also, the good work that the church does here, supporting people from communities who find themselves quite lost, such as the refugee community. They found a home here, and the church has supported them. And I really think there's so much to learn of love from this place. And of course, it's fulfilling its mission to celebrate all people and bring together connection. So I just want to really thank the United Reformed Church for teaching me so much. Now, the cloak has still not been returned to me, so I think we need a bit of a recap on what I've learned. Okay, so all the lessons of love, and then perhaps if we speak them all, the cloak will be returned. Okay, so the lessons of love that I've learned. I learned of love lost and everlasting in the memorial grounds. What else did I learn? You were helping me earlier. What else did I learn? To be kind. Yes, I learned that love is everywhere. Wonderful. I learned about the kindness needed to give and receive love. I learned that love is everywhere in this town. You have only to look for it. There are so many wonderful community groups here just waiting to offer the loving hand of friendship. I really believe that about this town, that there's so much ability to connect with each other. Does anybody else have anything that they can remind me that I learned about love as we were walking around the town? Anything else about love? What else? Love of faith, yes. Love of community, the kind of love that comes from friendship. What about romantic love? Did we pick up any stories of romantic love? We did. We had the wonderful first kiss, didn't we? So we learned about romantic love as well. And the weddings, of course. At Hillside, we learned about the weddings and the wedding celebrations. And I think, for me, what I really learned throughout all of my wandings and my ramblings, we learnt about the love of charity from Isabel Burley. We learned about the love of female education, women supporting women from the Charity Girls' School. But for me, as I said, I feel the cloak is getting closer. What I really learned is that love is not a thing that can be forged or faked. It can't be bought. It can't be sold. It really is a feeling, and it's unique to each and every person. And it doesn't just have to mean romantic love. As you know, I've been very unlucky in love, perhaps because I wore green on my wedding day, which a lot of the Lancashire folk have warned me was not a good move. So I've been very unfortunate, but I have found love in other places, in friendship, in community, and in this beautiful town that you call home. And I also think it's important that everybody look after yourselves and love yourselves, something we can do by continuing to be bold, support each other in sharing our stories and keeping the history of this town alive. So I really think love is also about stories, being bold, being brave, and sharing them with one another.
Ophelia, many moons ago I laid down a challenge to find me the meaning of true love. I think you have succeeded in this challenge, and I am very pleased with your progress. I have followed you around this town, and I have seen the many good things you have done and the many good people you have met. You have listened carefully to the stories of the people of this town and truly got into the spirit of them. Through them you have learnt the power of love. Therefore, I reward you with your magical cloak. But first, I must ask you, please tell me you will keep the lessons and the stories that you've learnt here in Kirkham sealed in your heart forever.
Weaving sorceress, thank you so much for the challenges you set me. I had so much to learn, and I have learned so much from this town. And I want to thank each and every one of you. Today I have really felt that connection of everybody joining in and coming together. Thank you so much. And I truly believe, learning from all of you, that love is also kind of another word for home. And I really feel that in a lot of the people here, that in Kirkham there's a feeling of coming home and a feeling of love. And I will carry that in my heart as long as I journey on. But as I told you about my magical cloak, on the next full moon, I will turn back into my wolfen form, and I will run wild and free through the glittering forests once more. But I will never forget you, and I will never forget what I've learned here. So thank you all for your help. Thank you. Oh, can't get up.
Home is where I want to be. Pick me up and turn me round. I feel numb, warm with a weak heart. Guess I must be having fun. Less we say about it, the better. Make it up as we go along. Feet on the ground, head in the sky. It's okay, I know nothing's wrong. Nothing. Hi-yo, I got plenty of time. Hi-yo, you got light in your eyes. And you're standing here beside me. I love the passing of time. Never for money, always for love. Cover up and say goodnight. Say goodnight. Home is where I want to be, but I guess I'm already there. I come home, she lifted up her wings. I guess that this must be a place. I can tell one from another. Did I find you or you find me? There was a time before we were born. If someone asked, this is where I'll be, where I'll be. Hi-yo.
so much for joining me on this trail and helping me to learn so much from the history of this town and the people within it. As you can see, I have been rewarded by the weaving sorceress my magical wolfskin cloak. And on the next full moon, I will return to my wolfen form and run wild and free through the glittering forests once more. Until next time, thank you.